Hello friends, this is Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and today I want to talk about this new Mythic raid that everyone's been talking about, and I've hinted at it, I've talked about it over the last couple of months, and really what I want to do is talk about what it will look like. I don't think that they're going to do a Mythic tier for all three raids. We have 3 raids in the game. The game's been around for 3 years. It's entering into its 4th year just now, and what I see them doing is adding a Mythic tier instead of every year, maybe every 6 months, right? If they added a Mythic tier to the Rancor raid now, June they could add a Mythic tier to the HAAT raid, and then this time next year they could add a Mythic tier to the Sith Triumvirate raid. Then, that gives them a year and a half if they add a new raid this coming year, which is very possible and based on statistics, very likely. I don't think they're going to be adding all 3 at the same time. First off, we don't need a Mythic tier to the Sith Triumvirate raid. Heroic, as it stands now, is already very difficult, and most people are still getting their teams ready and fixed and able to do the Mythic tier or the Heroic tier for the Sith Triumvirate raid. So it doesn't make sense to add one for that. Tank is still one of those levels, one of those raids that in-game players, people have been playing for a long time, you've already been able to play, you've already been able to dominate it, your guild is solid. But there's still a lot of newbies out there, there's still a lot of new guilds out there that are starting the Heroic tank raid. So I don't think that it's likely that we will see a Heroic tank raid or a Mythic tier to the tank raid. It's possible, and that's why I say 6 months, 9 months at the latest. I think what we're going to see is a focus on the Rancor. Now, the reason I say that is, one, everyone can defeat the Rancor. Even the newest guilds who are just getting together, who have 1 to like 30 people. I mean, really, if you're in a guild by yourself, the hardest part is just getting enough credits to launch the Heroic tank or the Heroic Rancor. But everything else is super easy. You can probably solo it by yourself. The reason I think they're also going to focus with Rancor is that's where they start. They start with Rancor, something that everyone is familiar with, something that everyone can do very well, and they're going to up the difficulty. Right? They're going to make it more difficult. Maybe they'll just switch it back to the difficulty they originally had it, which at this point probably wouldn't be that difficult for most players anyways. What I think they could do is start there, throw in this Mythic tier, add some challenges, add some focuses, add some different tweaks and twerks and twunks and whatever, right? To make it more challenging. Then, based on player feedback, based on community feedback, start looking or start tweaking the already Mythic tier for the HAAT, right? Or the MAAT, right? So the new MAT is what they'll probably call it. That's what I think they would do. Then start planning for whatever tweaks or additions that the Sith Triumvirate raid will need for its Mythic tier, right? You introduce the one that everyone's already familiar with. Then start making adjustments for the other stuff that you already have kind of worked out. I would be shocked if they don't already have a Mythic tier being beta tested. That would blow my mind. If not beta tested with the beta testers, at least within the dev team, right? They've got something they're working on. That would be shocking to me. Now, again, why are we even talking about a Mythic tier? Well, as you recall, I have been talking about this little screenshot here. This post was a leak that came out, I think, early July, maybe early August. I can't remember, but it was earlier this year and pretty much predicted everything that's come about for the rest of the year. But the idea here is everything that this little box of gray predicted has come true, with the exception of a couple things, right? We have the GG rework, right? The General Grievous rework. People are like, oh, well, that didn't happen. Well, it didn't happen yet. We know that General Grievous was set to be reworked, and it is believed that it was set to be launched in tandem with Battlefront 2's rework of General Grievous, right? EA owns Battlefront 2, EA owns SWGOH. So it makes sense to do some, cross promoting, to do some stuff. There was this leak, and all of a sudden, hey, you got to push this back. That's what I think happened. Whether it did or not, I have no idea. The work is done, or the work has been done. Whether it might be in its final stages of tweaking. I think that type of stuff is set to come out early 2019, January, at latest February. Very possible. I think that's what we're going to see. That's why I think this stuff is the way that it is. But there was a data mine, and this data mine has something else, right? So we have, if you look at it here, there's a string. It says, as long as this unit isn't toppled, it has plus 2 bonus attack actions and gains 100% turn meter every 7th time it takes damage. This unit takes reduced damage from percentage health damage effects. Its turn meter gain effects can't be prevented, and it's immune to stun, shock, ability block, daze, stagger, health down, and cooldown decrease. Fearsome Foe begins a counter. When the encounter begins, when it completes, all enemies will become enraged until the end of the battle, so on and so forth. Here's the thing, guys. That ability, that unique, is very similar to what we already see on General Grievous, but we don't see it on the Rancor raid. So that's what I'm thinking. This raid boss 04, right? Or this raid boss for, that's obviously the name. Here's the thing, right? Could we see a new final boss? Okay. Now, that's where a little bit of my speculation comes in. Okay. We have essentially bookends, right? We have the Gamorrean guards. That's introducing episode 1, right? That's phase 1. Then we have 3 tiers of the Rancor. What if those don't change, but there becomes a 5th tier? Could we see something other than the Rancor? Now, what happened in Return of the Jedi after the Rancor? Jabba. What if the final battle, the final tier of a Mythic mode, or the Mythic tier, would be fighting against Jabba's skiff, right? A huge attack or a huge battle, right? So instead of facing off against just the Rancor, you're facing off against the Jabba, then maybe a Boba Fett, then maybe a few Gamorrean guards, maybe, I don't know. It would be really, really freaking cool to see that, right? If you're facing off against just the skiff itself, would be freaking awesome. If that's the case, and again, that's kind of a long shot, but it would be really freaking awesome, like really cool, because then you're going up against stuff that, it's a whole new mechanic. It's a whole new thing. If that's the case, will you still get the same thing as a reward? Will you still get a raid Han? I don't rightly think so. I think it's possible. It may not be likely, but it's possible that a Mythic tier will come with a Mythic level reward character. Now, in my mind, that is 2 characters. There are 2 characters that would fit that description. One, Jabba himself. And if you want to go back and look at what I think a Jabba kit should or would look like, got a video for it. I'll leave it in the links below, or I'll leave it in a card that pops up somewhere here. The other is Return of the Jedi Luke, right? Luke dressed in the black clad. Luke dressed, emo Luke, lightsaber, green lightsaber Luke. That would be freaking awesome. And would be a cool way and a really great way to incentivize the player base to try out a new Mythic raid. It would be. And I mean, outside of the fact that, hey, it's a new opportunity to play, it's a new raid to play, whatever, it's this character that people have been dying to play. Also, if that were the case, you wouldn't get necessarily a character that is so overpowered, right? That you could introduce a mythic character that wouldn't just massively increase the power creep, right? He could be on par with the characters that we have now. Maybe a little better than CLS, maybe a little better than, I don't know, Treya, or even some of the new legendary characters, or maybe just simply on par with them. That way, we're not getting this crazy, like, hardcore new character. We're just getting a character that's awesome, sure, that's great, sure, but not game destroying. That, I think that would be really cool. Now, personally, I'd love Jabba. I mean, I like Luke. I think he's great. I think in Return of the Jedi, Luke would be sweet, but I think Jabba would be awesome, right? And it could also be our first neutral character. I won't go off into that, but I really want Jabba the Hutt, and I really want him to be a neutral character. I think that would be sweet. I think along with that, we could also see a place for other rewards, increased gear, maybe gear 12, something to that extent. I think with this, we could also see a Gamorrean Guard rework. I think we could see, I don't know. I think there's a lot of really cool things that a mythic tier and that type of event could indicate and could be part of and could give to the game. And I'm excited about that. And I do think that it is coming in January. I think it's likely that we will see something from EA, something from Capital Games around mid-January, if not earlier, if not simply announced mid-January. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff out there that I think we could be seeing added. And I think the first half of this year is all going to be focused around that, with a couple of exceptions. Now, what do you think? What do you think is coming? Do you think the Mythic Raid, do you think they're going to just drop all 3 Mythic tiers on us at once? Do you think they're going to release them periodically? If they do, how long apart do you think they're going to be? Do you think I'm even close to the mark, or am I just so far off base that it's crazy to even think of? Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment in the section below. Join us on Discord. Join the conversation. This has been Thaddeus from Going Nerdy, and as always, my friends, stay nerdy.